with the show they want to cancel, with the show they want to hack. I'm onto them. Oh, well, I better get my team on. I'll tell you what in a minute, because obviously you've been waiting. There's so much news. I called it the rap party, and I think somebody's decided to give me a rap straight away. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October, 2025. And our latest news tonight makes for a fabulously tasty rap party as me and Jamie and the Hoopettes go to Italy for a week. You'd think we might as well have just already gone. Never fear, we have some delicious cliffhanger shows for you to enjoy at 8 p.m. on various nights with no tech issues, including Philip Morris, his selection, Will Hadcroft's in 2 cliffhanger specials. But we've got some panelist friends as well, John, Paul and Sean. And you can see there, I might be away, but there's plenty of fun. Remember, 4 cliffhangers per show to watch and discuss. There's the headlines tonight. You've been waiting a few extra minutes. My God, where do you start there? My source has got loads of material telling me how the BBC are deluded about what they think about Doctor Who. Oh, loads there. Peter Purves, as you all know, alumni in Doctor Who. Doctor Who has gone too far. Discuss. Colin Baker is another ex-doctor who said Billy Piper, what the hell was all that about? Millie Gibson, I wasn't dropped. The press have been unfair. We hear more. Stephen Moffat, his original plans for the Rani. And of course, there has to be a time when we go, you know those ratings? They've accumulated now, aren't they? Can we now make a judgment? Oh, loads of tasty stuff. And I've got a fresh new panel tonight. New friend on our channel. Hello, Stefan.
Hello.
You thought your debut was going to be wrecked by some tech, didn't you?
No, it won't stop us.
Was your neighbours? Your neighbours didn't want this to happen. No, here we go.
Oh, no, yeah, they're all tapping in. I think they're Russian.
And we've got Jordan as well. Good to see you.
Yeah, hello, everyone.
Yeah, Jordan will be joining us again and again, as will Stefan, I hope. And we've got Chris in Utah, nowhere near the UK. And no doubt you've got no Wi-Fi issue, no tech issue, no hacking issue, because you're in Utah. There you go.
Yeah, things are very nice and quiet and calm and technically boring here.
Yeah, the air was blue here. So, well, I mean, I suppose we better get going on this. It is such a packed show, and you can see there's plenty there. Stefan, just looking at that little list of headlines, as a Doctor Who fan of a different age to me, is there anything there that you really want to get your teeth into?
Well, there's a few, really. I think Millie, I was not dropped. I think, there's a bit of defence there that needs to come in. I think, Peter Purves as well is always a good topic to talk about as well. They're the 2 I'd pick out, definitely.
Okay, Jordan, what are you wanting to get going on?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see the final ratings for season 2 and how they're going to try and claim that they're quite successful.
Oh yeah, because they've gone up so much higher.
through the roof.
Oh God, I know. They've hit some ceilings. I don't know what they are.
Biggest show on television now.
Chris, anything there that you think? Oh yes, that's up my street.
The Moffat's plans for the Rani, that interests me particularly because of comments he made. I remember contemporary to his time saying how he would never use the Rani because of various reasons. So I find that particularly interesting.
So we've got that. We've got my Undoctorly Doctor video segment, which seems to be pretty popular. So we'll start on that soon, actually. Obviously, we may mention missing episodes because that's the only thing on everybody's brain. So this is your show for you tonight. No time to waste on the making sense, talking sense of all the Doctor Who nonsense, sense, fear show. Let's get going. So, have you got your season 13 set, Stefan, Jordan and Chris?
No, I haven't, but it's a good series to get.
Excuse me, can I hear this again? Excuse me, the thread are going to go opposite haywire. We're all trying to squeeze Terror of the Zygons in and everything, and you're saying you haven't got it yet?
Not got it yet, but, it'll come. It'll come.
What, have you ordered it?
I've ordered it, yeah. It's not come yet. I've not got it yet.
Well, you should be getting stressed by now.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I only ordered it the other day, so.
Oh, yeah, well,
That's my fault. That's my fault. Yeah.
I ordered it about 60 months ago and it didn't come. You know, there were people tweeting going, I've got mine, I've gone to bed with it, and you're going, oh, get a life. Jordan, season 13?
Yeah, so it's a great season. I just think the limited edition box sets look a bit flimsy, the cardboards. I've only been going for standard editions, so I'm going to try and wait out for a year or so.
Look, you all know I used to be a teacher. They've got all their excuses all in now. I mean, what is this?
Plus, I'm a Blu-ray nerd, and they're a bit taller than normal cases.
Oh God, Chris, have you ordered it? Are you getting it?
I would like to have all of them, but I don't have a single collection box set. I actually have very little in terms of physical merchandise for Doctor Who at my home, and so I guess I enjoy seeing things and seeing other people's collections, but myself, I'm not really a physical collector type of person. Although I will say this, when it comes to these collections, I would like to get them, but once they're all released.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can see the ones that are now left to get. Season 21, we all seem to think is a favourite for coming up next, or season 16, season 11, and then we go into the 60s. So there you go. I'm well aware a lot of you there. And then, of course, very recently we had the Terror of the Zygons and Q&A down in London, where everything seems to happen. There's Philip Hinchcliffe. There's the Scarrison. And, you know, there's good old Tom Baker as well. He did some video footage for it, I understand. So he was joining the event kind of online. So there you go. So some of us are excited by that. I've got a panel who are kind of champing at the bit not to be. Hey, God, you know, what's it all about? So maybe I'll have to get you excited about an item, eh? Now, I'm going to say, right, let's test everybody's credentials, the Undoctorly segment, and let's just see what you all think of that. By the way, knowing our tech tonight, if the video doesn't work, we'll be on to that first item straight away. But let's have a look. Let's see if this works. Yeah, careful. I mean, Stefan, you get the first shot at this. I don't know what your opinion is on this new Who. I go through these segments. I'm trying to find examples of where I think RTD went too far and it just wasn't the Doctor. Now, is that an example that you would agree with or you'd push back on?
Yeah, I'd have to agree completely. To be fair, when Shooty was cast, I was so in favour of him because I thought, you know what, he's going to bring some real action into this show. I thought, fantastic. When I saw that clip in particular, if I wasn't a Doctor Who fan, or like my partner who watched that episode when it came out, she thought I was watching an episode of Hollyoaks or something like that. You know, because she came in around that sort of time when it was on. It's just like, this isn't Doctor Who. What's going on here? You've got to think as well. Would previous actors in the role be turning? Well, William Hartnell will be turning in his grave if he was watching that. Would you agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, what is it? Right. Okay. I've deliberately not said why I picked the clip because obviously that can lead people. So, Stefan, what is your issue with that? Why do you think it is just not the Doctor at all?
Well, where's the science fiction program? Where's the man in a blue box that goes through time and space in that? I'm sorry, I cannot get my head around what the thinking of behind that scene was introducing him to his assistant. You know what I mean? There was no mystery. It was like, when did the Doctor start dancing in nightclubs? What's that about? You know, just, yeah.
It's interesting because I'm sat here like an old crone and I've got younger panelists on, and I thought RTD was doing this to grab you lot. Now, so far, not Stefan. Jordan, is this up your street? Is this Doctor Who?
I could see Tom Baker doing this scene, 100%.
With a scarf. Scarf, go in.
No, it's awful. It's awful.
Right,
like you said, they're trying to get a Gen Z audience, but it's just not.
Yeah, but do you think when you see a program trying too hard, does that turn you away, or do you go, "Oh, full credit, you're trying to talk to me. It's just it doesn't work on this occasion."
The thing is, Doctor Who, just being Doctor Who, always appealed to children. You know, they never need to have to do any of this. You know what I mean? If anything, it's just made it a lot worse.
Chris, what are your thoughts on? You see, I have to be able to cope with a Doctor I don't like, you know, and you just go with it. You still watch it. But I just think there's something that goes on here that I think is not the Doctor. What do you think, Chris?
The root problem with this scene is that Shooty looks like he belongs in the nightclub. He looks like he is anyone else in that scene, dancing like anyone else. There's nothing about him that screams what would make, in my opinion, me as a viewer connect to Millie Gibson, saying, I can see why she singles him out, aside from the fact that maybe he's an attractive man. But that's not the core character at all of Doctor Who. There is a sense that your eye would go to the Doctor because he's doing something unusual, unlike everyone else. He's doing exactly what everyone else is doing in that scene, which is dancing. And he looks like he knows how to dance. He looks like he belongs. It connects to a lot of other things, like Shooty got wearing clothing that's very trendy and very fashionable of this time, of this era, and not having a singular costume. He looks like a fashionista Doctor. Or he just looks like someone that belongs, in fashion. He doesn't seem like he doesn't belong. And so for that reason, it is antithetical to me as of Doctor Who. It's the opposite. Instead of an alien who doesn't belong, and you wonder, who is this person? He doesn't belong. He doesn't feel right. It's like, what's a man dancing in a nightclub?
Yeah. Now, the reason I picked it, I mean, I know most people go mad about the dance situation. Yeah, okay. We've had a few other scenes over Doctor Who, but the thing that bothered me, and isn't it funny how we're all different, but it's this bit. One touch to close me. No. Yeah, it's as simple as that. I watch Doctor Who. I agree with what you've been saying, everybody. And I know what you mean, Chris, about he's an outsider, he's a pariah, he's the geek. But this, yeah, and I get that the nightclub makes him the opposite. But I also found problematic this magical Disney nonsense where 1 minute he's dancing in the middle of the dance floor, basically in his own world, and the next minute he's stopping a glass from dropping. And I know you might say it's a comical little moment, but suddenly the Doctor's leaping around like some sort of jaguar. It's like, nah, stop it. The Doctor was never always this kind of nimble thing. He's a thinker. And I just can't stand that. This just isn't Doctor Who. It's a completely different character. So I'll show it one more time, because it wasn't even an introduction to the companion. He stopped her gin and tonic from dropping. It was stupid.
Careful!
I mean, what the hell is he, a glass collector? No, so for me, that really pushed it beyond the limit. And I know most people have found it a problem with the nightclub. But I was trying to be unpredictable as well. But it was that bit going, look, you pick your story from, go back to William Hartnell, you pick your Doctor. There'll be moments when somebody's dropped something and all the rest of it. The Doctor never goes flying across the room like Superman. This is not Doctor Who. He's not a superhero. Stefan, no. Am I being harsh there?
No, I don't think you're being harsh at all, to be honest with you. I think the thing that sort of really sticks with me on this one is when, even if you look at since the reboot in 2005, is probably barring Chris Eccleston, every Doctor has sort of paid homage to maybe a previous version of himself. I don't see anything with Shooty that relates to anything that is the Doctor. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing there that makes me relate and go, even if he wore a bow tie or something, just something there that makes me think that's the Doctor. I know they were trying to appeal to this new audience, and I know there was probably some caveats when they signed the agreement with Disney and whatever else. Well, we want you to do it a bit like this and a bit like that. But if you look at even RTD's other shows that he's done, probably, before Doctor Who and after, Queer as Folk is a good example. What's the one he did with Years and Years? There was there's a certain theme that resonates throughout these types of shows. That was great for those shows, but I think he was trying to bring it into Doctor Who, and I just don't think it was necessary. I don't think he needed to do that. Like Jordan was saying, the Mysterious Doctor was what attracted you to the program anyway. You didn't need all this kind of showboating in a nightclub and whatever else. And I think as well, it ruins, because Millie Gibson, I find, is actually a wonderful actor, and she's actually a really nice person as well. And I just feel like this has probably damaged it a bit for her. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've got other examples. So, Jordan, I'll bring you in on this one. I'll shock you. Are you ready? We're all in the same episode. Here we go.
She's gonna say yes. Who is your girlfriend when you ask her to marry you on Christmas Day?
How do you know?
So Sonic screwdriver just went ping in her pocket, which says engagement ring, and I'm guessing that she's a she, because 91% of men wouldn't choose a diamond. Plus Christmas Day couldn't wait, and that's why she loves you.
I mean, Jordan, honestly, I thought, what? Now the Doctor's Mystic Meg. Now the Doctor is some sort of astrologer. Can't stand that. The Doctor can't do that. And do you know the other thing, Jordan? He's such a killjoy. She'll say yes. How dare you? You're a Time Lord, but don't you dare meddle in people's kind of proposals and the fun and the excitement of whether... Oh, bug off, Doctor. You're a bore.
And I think this is something that they started with Tennant as well. We need to make him more human. It's all about making him more human, and just gets to the point where he's just a bland character nowadays. He's just some Gen Z down with the kids, goes out clubbing. You know what I mean?
Well, how dare they put anyone who's over 30 in the role now or something like that? Yeah.
Well, that Capaldi's my favourite. He's lived the new Who anyway, so you know what I mean? I prefer the older Doctor. 100%.
But there's something pervy about it. He's kind of saying, "Oh, my Sonic picked up that you've got a ring there, and she's going to say yes, Jen." And it's like, "Oh, butt out, mate. Get in the TARDIS, solve some issue on Scarrow. No doubt that you caused years earlier, and butt out of somebody's private business. He's going to propose to her. Naught to do with you, mate." Honestly, Chris, it does. Am I sounding authentic? It grinds my gears.
Well, no, I think that you are more than sounding authentic. You're being very honest. And I think that, again, I echo what Jordan said, and you have said that this scene definitely seems to be... It's not innovative, in my opinion, in terms of a character, because you could easily swap the dialogue with at least the actor in the dialogue for like David Tennant. Similar speaking style, similar... sounding words, very fast speaking and gobbledygook, but in this case it's domesticated, so it's almost the anti-Eccleston. My problem with this scene is that what does it matter that the Doctor can detect that a man is what I mean with this, what interest or enigmatic quality or master plan or strange odd conversation is serving the plot here? They're saying, "Oh, you're going to get engaged," and she's going to say yes. What does it say about this Doctor's character? That he meddles in people's lives? Or at least he meddles in their personal lives, just stating what the character already knows about themselves. Wouldn't it be a much more interesting scene, in my opinion, is if the Doctor said, "Oh, you're in the. It's a little bit different. This is cultural, contextual. But I'm in the U.S. Police officers carry guns."
Yeah.
UK, now correct me if I'm wrong. UK officers, I'm asking people to say yes or no. Am I correct saying that UK officers don't carry guns, right? Firearms?
No, not regular.
No, not regular.
Wouldn't it be a much interesting story? You would never get this on the television series. What I'm saying is, if this were maybe an audio or something, but let's just say no restraints. Wouldn't it be a much more interesting moment if you say, "Oh, you're carrying a gun. You're a police officer. You're a UK police officer. You're carrying a gun. Why are you carrying a gun?" And then you go from there because it's off. It's an off moment. What if he's not a police officer? What if he's an alien in disguise? And there's some stranger storyline there. And then you could spin the whole event because it's like, oh, you look like a normal guy. Why are you carrying a gun?
Yeah, make
And
him
then
a
you have a
bloody
very different
Auton.
story.
Just make him an Auton like they did.
Exactly. But instead, it's just, oh, you've got a ring and you're going to get married. It's flotsam.
Yeah, if you think about it, and I don't buy into this. It's Christmas Day, or it needs to be magical. Oh, go away with all that nonsense. We had enough with Stephen Moffat. No, what we want is a damn good episode, and this is the introduction to this new Doctor. Don't have him just dancing in a nightclub and he's a glass collector. Then the next minute he has a joke about the snowman falling on his head, and then the next minute he's going, "Do you know what? I think you're going to get married, have 3 kids, and I think one of them will be a boy." Hey, who are you? A box of tricks. He'll have a white rabbit coming out of his hat next, saying, "What else do you want, love? I can do loads of." What? He's not the Paul Daniels of space, honestly. Oh, last example. Here we go.
So a sonic screwdriver just went ping in her pocket, which says engagement ring, and I'm guessing that she's a she, because 91% of men wouldn't choose a diamond. Plus Christmas is getting
Sexist.
away, and that's why she loves you.
And you thought, yeah, I'll give that a go, babe. Nothing hurts. Ta-da! You know, the mass and density of Mavity exists in.
Oh my God, it's the last one, folks, and then we get on to Peter Purves and Jane Tranter and Rob Sheeman. But my God, Mavity gloves. Babes. I mean, Stefan, babes. Mavity gloves, babes. What do you think?
Mavity. Look, if it had gone somewhere, then we'd probably be having a different conversation. Be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It still doesn't make sense. It's one of these red herrings that's been thrown in there to sort of lead us astray of what we're concentrating on here. That's my first issue. My second thing is to be honest, when I first saw this scene, I chuckled a bit. The whole kind of babes bit was quite funny because it was a little bit different. It's a bit out of character, but I think for me, I'm glad they didn't overuse that particular sentence or phrase, let's just say, and it kind of it phased out itself in a sense. But at the same time, it's not overly offensive, that scene, but it could have been done better.
Well, Stefan, before I move on to Jordan, do you know the reason I picked this scene? It wasn't the babes, actually. I mean, it's like, yeah, whatever. It was this Superman Doctor who now, I mean, remember, in this episode, he's amazing.
Yeah.
1 minute he's disco dancing in the middle of the floor. Now he's catching glasses and not spilling a drop. I tell you what, we're all masters of that, I know. And then, of course, and then he's predicting the future for some copper. And then on top of that, he's then running along rooftops and then does this gargantuan leap. I'm sorry, I know John Pertwee was a bit of a stuntman, but there's a level of it. This, Stefan, is not Doctor Who.
No, it's not. It's kind of, look, it's kind of beyond. At the end of the day, even when he was the Doctor back whenever it was, he never had superpowers in any kind of way, apart from regeneration, arguably. He couldn't do super jumping. He wasn't an Olympic athlete in any regeneration that he's had. Yeah, he's a bit quirky, but like I said, he's not. I know Shooty's a very athletic person and whatever else, and they probably wanted to exploit that. He's always prancing around. Sure or not, he's doing ballet or something like that on his social medias and whatever. But putting that into the show, I could have quite easily lived without it.
You see,
I'm
Jordan,
sure everyone else will agree on that one.
See, Jordan, this bores me because I don't want the Doctor who can leap off buildings, catch glasses, read the future. That to me says boring.
Yeah. Well, they're just making like any other generic Hollywood action hero. That's the end of it. I don't honestly think they're doing this to appeal to kids, but it's just not the Doctor. At all.
And then the horrible Mavity. Chris, just a quick one. I mean, it's not the Doctor, is it?
Well, I think for me, I think this scene shows that, to me, that RTD had run out of ideas in terms of original or differentiated characterization of the same character of the Doctor, because to me, I saw this and I thought, again, this could just be David Tennant. The costume is very similar in this, at least in this scene, because he's wearing, once again, a trench coat, running around. Tennant would do little jumps and, jump off, not far jumps over buildings like Superman, but he'd run and hit the wall and then bounce or something. So when I saw this, I thought, RTD is stuck in Tennant. He's stuck in the Tennant mode, and it really made me realize that's how he writes Doctor Who. The problem is, if he were to write Doctor Who forever, you might have cycling actors, but the character would remain very, very similar. Yes, Eccleston was different, but I think part of the reason, in my opinion, perhaps, why Eccleston's Doctor was very different is because there was extreme tension and friction between his interpretation of the character and RTD's interpretation of the character, and that, in my opinion, the more we learn about Eccleston's behind the scenes, created a Doctor who was very different from others, but very different from RTD's Doctor. You get guys like Tennant, you get guys like Ncuti, who, for whatever reason, can do it, but maybe they just interpret the material as written. That's speculation, but the point is, in my opinion, this scene showed to me RTD cannot write a Doctor differently than David Tennant. We're stuck in 2009.
New Who is all that counts, I think, in his head. So our next big item is the BBC being deluded, according to my source, and maybe yourselves. But first of all, Geraint Williams, thank you very much. Why does the Doctor change clothes 4 times in that scene? Because he's got a body, because he's got to show it off, because he's been in the gym. I'm not going to, I will not change. Even after a reboot, I'm not getting changed tonight. I'm sorry, folks, I'm going to let you down. I'm not getting changed because I haven't got a body to show off, so you're stuck with this one. I actually liked it when William Hartnell just stayed in the same clobber. Troughton stayed in the same clobber. It wasn't about vanity or surface. It was about the inner person. Honestly, we are selling the wrong stuff to the kids. I hope this isn't for the kids, because the kids are getting the wrong message, that it's all about the look. No, it's about that. It's about using your nous. So, Geraint, that's my answer, which is it's because he's hired somebody who used to be a bloody pole dancer and all the gay night spots, and he kind of just wants to show off his booty because he's been in the gym and he's paid his subscriptions. Have you got a better reason, Jordan, why you think he's getting changed every 5 minutes, apart from the costume designer's knackered?
Well, I don't know, but I think one of the things that it massively affects is that each Doctor had their own identity, individual identity. You really connect the costume with that Doctor. And if you shoot a Gatwa, you don't get that because he's just changing every 5 minutes.
What about you, Chris, on that?
I 100% agree with Jordan. Ncuti's Doctor, I think it's almost an identity-less Doctor, because baseline, he, in my opinion, you could argue a little bit like Jodie Whittaker was, laying that aside. Baseline, I think he's being written very much just like Tennant. The dialogue and the delivery is very much like a Tennant-style Doctor, but also because he doesn't have a singular outline, meaning silhouette. You could identify most Doctors based on the outline of their clothing and the hair and such. Because, again, Ncuti's pretty much shaved head. And Ncuti is wearing costumes that are, from every single episode to episode, different, completely different. It just looks like a person wearing different clothing. So he's without an identity. He's without he's a roving Doctor in that respect. He's without any sense of identity and structure, and therefore he cannot, in my opinion, to the same level as the other Doctors, including Neo Tennant, because he's same outline as 10, same actor. So I think it was a mistake to bring him back in that respect. He cannot identify in your mind saying, "Oh, that's him." If you see a lineup, but then it's a black cutout, he can't be identified in that respect. You might be able to identify him because he doesn't have those clothing, that particular clothing. The point is, he is incomplete in that respect. Sadly, his entire era, his entire Doctor, is simply a copy, a reflection of something else.
Well, one of the things we'll look at is about change. Peter Purves has gone about change and whether there's too much change. My sources stuck their neck in as well. So, first of all, courtesy and niceties. David Frame, thank you very much. And as a thank you, before we move on, David, the good old days, the war machines.
Stand by for test on arm action. Stand by for sight test. Commence testing. site to be improved. 30 yards maximum. Movement test. Commence testing.
Put down your weapon.
Supplied by Garbage Who, and always a good excuse to show a bit of classic Who. Now you can see there, I've got it in a kind of red. My source, Talk to Me, has been talking to BBC people, and he told me what the BBC have been saying. Oh, it's fascinating, lads. Oh, I tell you what, I could tease away. And my job tonight is to tease. First of all, as Zach Witness saying, who is the source? Has Brendan been on the source? Hey, watch it. So yes, who is the source? Who's given me all this tasty information? And there's loads tonight. What is it? What do you want? Take this, read it, and meet my boss at the wit's end. You must seek and locate and destroy the source. He is causing an imbalance in the media. He's giving too much away.
He must be found. Must, you hear?
It must be secured at once.
I have sent many agents to seek and locate the source to the far corners of the globe. Looking, searching. They were the top Who-pet agents. None of them secured the source. And many agents have failed. And failure I do not tolerate. Failure means you are tortured, microwaved, atomized, spun, drawn and ironed. I do not countenance failure.
Relinquish the source and die!
You still do not know me.
Soon you will know me. Soon.
So Sophie, it's just a question that everybody's asking. Are you the source?
HP or tomato?
Good question. So, yes, my good old source. We keep teasing you, so let's see what he's been saying. It's linked, first of all, with what Rob Sheeman said. And as you know, got it in the neck from Jane Tranter. Doctor Who as dead as we've ever known, he said in the Doctor Who Monthly. Just to remind you what he said there. And actually, he was just being very authentic. I will hold on for a minute. If I continue to have a bad voice, you know I'm going to try and reboot, and we'll have our kind of interregnum. You know what it's like. So the lads will tell me if my voice continues to sound a bit Davros-ish. But this is what Rob Sheeman said. I go through the phases, you know. Creatively, there is an issue. And of course, his issue was that the Billy Piper appearing makes the Doctor uninspiring, uncreative, and all the rest of it. And so we are going to. Shall I go for it, lads? A reboot?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
here you go.
that's the quote we're going to discuss when we get back. I'll go larger, and I'll put some music on, and we will see you all in a moment while I reboot, because we've been hacked again by some, imposter. Again. That was pretty music, wasn't it? No, right. Okay, so so here we go. So she broke the code in a way. It was a reaction because Doctor Who is her Achilles heel. I think it caught her out because normally she'd say, well, let's just wait. Something's exciting is coming. Don't worry. But nothing is exciting is coming, says the source. Now, did you see, Stefan and Jordan and Chris, did you see what she said about Rob Sheeman?
Might have been rude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll show it now. I'll risk the hacking and all the usual nonsense. But this is what she said, everybody. And then we can actually see what my source is saying and whether you agree.
To read what the writer Robert Shearman said earlier this week. He described Doctor Who as dead as we've ever known it.
As dead as we've ever known it. That's really rude, actually, and really untrue. I think maybe he didn't see the final episode of the last season with the great big tease that Russell T Davies laid out there with the return of Rose Tyler. The BBC and BBC Studios had a partnership with Disney Plus for 26 episodes. We are currently 21 episodes down into that 26 episode run. We've got another 5 episodes of The War Between the Land and the Sea to come. And at some point after that, decisions will be made together with all of us about what the future of Doctor Who entails. It's a 60-year-old franchise. It's been going for 20 years non-stop since we brought it back in 2005. You would expect it to change, wouldn't you? You know, nothing continues the same always, or it shouldn't continue the same always. So it will change in some form or the other. But the one thing I think we can all be really clear of is that the Doctor will be back, and everyone, including me, including all of us, just has to wait patiently to see.
Go on then, Stefan, what you're thinking?
Well, first things first, I think her body language just shows how uncomfortable she feels when she's asked the question. She looks like she's trying to hide something, being quite honest. Yes, she goes on about, yes, there was a 26 episode contract and what have you. There's 5 episodes left and that'll be the war in the land of the sea and blah, 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 blah. But if there was something to get excited about, they would have said something, but they've not. They wouldn't have she wouldn't have left us like that, oh yeah, and then we need to have a chat. That's almost like when, I don't know, when you're with a partner and they go, we need to have a chat. That's how it came across. It's not gonna. I'm not confident what she's responded.
I'm not, and it's not fair because Rob Sheeman was making a creative point that turning the Doctor into Billy Piper and teasing us means that in these wilderness years, if we're going to have them, what do writers do with the Billy Piper Doctor? Because we don't know what she is, we don't know her character, we don't know if she even is the Doctor. So in other words, it hasn't caused a creative impulse, it's caused a disaster, unlike thinking Ace and the 7th Doctor were wandering off. And she found that rude. And then she says, Jordan, has he not seen the last episode? Yes, he has seen the last episode.
That's a problem.
He saw Billy Piper.
Yeah, and I think the idea that the war between the land and the sea is going to revive it somehow is just absolutely laughable. I really do. I mean, if that's what they're holding on for. But the thing is, for 20 years, it's been a given every year that it will be back on. They'd already been making it by now. Do you know what I mean? This is the first time in 20 years that there's not a season ready for next year. Or at least on with it anyway.
Yeah, well, as I come to Chris, Darren here says, you could tell how rattled she is by her voice alone. A completely unconvincing response from her. I think she is caught out, and my source will say so in a minute. But what do you reckon, Chris, from what you saw?
Well, I think that I echo what Jordan and Sean are saying. Her body language shows that she's not pleasant. She's not enjoying what she's having to say. She's not enjoying having to speak about it. And I think that's the main thing, is that if there were a positive response, if there were positive things actually happening in the background, I think that her reaction would be much more bright, much more open, much more forward thinking. Instead, she's backwards thinking, and she's backwards stating. This has been going for 20 years. We started it 20 years ago, referring to what their previous success, not their future success. She's not looking to the future. Until the very end, when it's almost like, in my opinion, she's probably kind of thinking, well, how do I wrap up this statement? Maybe she's calmed down a little bit, and she's thinking, she might be thinking, speculation, I just said too much, and I've just created a headline. And so how do I end with a positive statement? Well, then thinking about, well, let's just be patient and waiting for the future. But I think that she said all that she can say, which is mostly saying nothing. But I think that the revelation there is that it was an topic for her. She was clearly what your source was about to say, caught unaware, and maybe she's feeling slightly. She looks like someone who feels like she's, feeling slightly, maybe, I don't know, betrayed, like by one of her friends saying probably the truth that shouldn't have been said, which was, well, the show's dead, or the show's not going anywhere, and then you realize, how do I not admit failure?
So, as my source says, she broke the code in a way, because he was an ex-colleague. He was a writer for 2005 Doctor Who. She's broke the code by calling him out. He was not calling her out. He was just saying it's a creative impasse. But she's gone for the throat, really. Yes, it was a reaction because Doctor Who is her Achilles heel. She's running Bad Wolf, and it's a bit of an embarrassment. He continued, everybody knows what the situation is. Everybody knows Disney are not going to renew this. That's why they're pushing back. As you've all said, if you've got something to show as evidence, you say so. Why would you just witter on? And this is also what my source said here. I know why he's saying that, but the landscape is so challenging now in the television industry that if they go on record and say that it hasn't worked, it may affect them getting future work and other commissions. Yep, it might do. They'd have to be so careful. So, he was quite clear on she was out of order. In fact, as I put in my thumbnail title, it was just before I was recording him talking to me, and he said, she's effing out of order. She's effing out of order, slagging off Rob Sheeman. Oh, yeah, very clear. He said, and you can quote me on that, effing out of order. And then started to elaborate on it. So, Chris, the code is broken. If you can't say there's a new series of Doctor Who, just say, but one day, I'll be a bit cheeky. And you could actually say, well, let's enjoy, creating our own stories for a while. Even RTD did that with Newsround. He kind of said, well, you'll be the writers of the future.
I think that what we have here is a situation which is a no-win situation. I just watched Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, and they have the Kobayashi Maru, which is the no-win situation scenario, where nothing you can do will result in a success. It's how you deal with the situation, how you deal with death is how you define your life. Well, here I think that these people are dealing with the death of Doctor Who, at least for now. But very possibly, I think that Rob Sherman's comments probably, in my opinion, struck the real nerve with Jane Tranter, was they may not, and I think this is the underlying issue, I think that they don't see a future. They themselves behind the scenes don't know how the show is going to be able to continue. And when it hits you that under your watch, especially the people who brought it back the first time, that they are going to be probably known as the same people that finally killed it, possibly forever. Because they really have created the no-win scenario, which is an era which you could make the argument that died in its own time and didn't leave behind a future. But instead of fading to black, as was perhaps what we understand was the intention for the Jodie Whittaker era, fade to white, and then you could go anywhere. Instead of fading to black as maybe could have been intended and maybe could have salvaged the situation, because you could pause and say, well, we stop here, and then you could start anywhere. You could start with another Eccleston or something. Instead, you get Billy Piper, and now you're stuck with that one image. But if you are stuck with something, now your fans are saying, "Oh, where do we go? Where do we go? Who's Billy Piper?" But because it's a no-win scenario, because there was a backlash, and it reinforces, well, we've already brought back David Tennant for another Doctor. Now we're bringing back Billy Piper. We're stuck in 2005. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll pace you through. There's so much material, right, everybody? Jess says the truth, though, Brendan, is that the season 1 and season 2 showed them for what they are in allowing that trust to be broadcast globally. As you said, Chris, it is a bit embarrassing for them. It's on their CV. It's, you know, they made it as part of the Bad Wolf Studios, so there's no way out of it. What my source also said is this. This is what the BBC was saying behind the scenes. Not in PR, not in any brochure, not in the annual report, to each other. Doctor Who, it's great. The ratings are fantastic. What everybody's saying about the overnights ratings isn't true, because the overnights are amazing and they're hitting all of the demographics. They're bringing in new figures. It's amazing. Now, I know everybody's going to think I've been on some sort of drink, or the source has been on some sauce, but this is the truth. The BBC talking to themselves when they don't think we're there are saying this. Ha! Discuss. Stefan, did they watch the same programme as you?
No, they didn't. Look, to me, I think from the onset was with previous series, you know, I've been able to speak to people that I know are fans, or let's just say semi-interested, or let's just say that family group that sit down at tea time on a Saturday, to watch this show, or it's on at that prime hour where it's family time. During this era, I felt like I was really having to sell it to people to go, have you watched it? No. I think that was, you know, saying things like, you know, the ratings are fantastic. I mean, if they were that fantastic, we'd have so much more headline. We'd have more tabloid news about it. We'd have probably more merchandise for a start. If you think about it, in that sense, you know, think about the last time it came back on the airs. It was 2005, 2006. I remember going to Toys R Us at the time, and they had a full aisle. And they had figures that you'd never think would even be dreamt of that would be made into a figurine. Now you sort of, you know, they're sort of scraping the barrel. And I think this whole thing with Disney, it was probably a lot of pressure, but I think they felt a bit I do feel a bit like with the Disney thing that, yeah, like I said earlier on, there was caveats probably put in there of how they wanted the show to go. And it's just not reached those levels. That's just pure, simple fact.
So, Jordan, they must have been trying to reach out to you, but I'm just showing you what also they've been saying to each other. So you saw all that about the ratings. You saw all that about it. It's been really doing well. It's just that you lot are not getting it. And then this one, we're just waiting now to see what's going to happen with Billy Piper. And then the source is, I'm looking at these people and I want to say, are you an android? What are you talking about? So, I mean, they're all so excited.
The problem is they all live in this echo chamber, don't they, where they're all just sort of bouncing off each other's backs. But at the end of the day, if you have a series that consecutively goes down in ratings every episode for 2 years, there's no way you can class that as a success.
No. And we will prove it later on with our ratings, our final ratings for the year. I'll look at overnights and I'll also look at the consolidated. I mean, Chris, it's so exciting to think of this Billy Piper to come, according to the BBC. Nobody else is saying it.
Well, yes, I mean, no one else saying. In fact, I think most other people are probably saying the opposite. It really is this weird anti-reality where you will make more of something from less of than nothing. It's simple economics, a misunderstanding economics. When you have less demand, you have less demand, and your costs are increasing. Do you create more supply? I don't think so. And I think, it's impossible. And I think that, again, but there is, if this is delusion, I think that at least it is enlightening because it tells me why the BBC keeps saying Doctor Who's brand is sound, it's fundamentally sound, it will always come back, it will never go away. Because I think that Very, very, very. I'll keep this very brief. I was having a discussion. This will maybe give a suggestion of what I'm thinking. I was having a discussion with another Doctor Who fan, who's 18, maybe about 20 years old. So his lifetime has been since the series came back. All he's known is Doctor Who, but going by probably when he started watching Doctor Who, he's been watching probably Doctor Who, I would assume, since maybe the Peter Capaldi era, probably more like Jodie Whittaker. So all he's known is Doctor Who in decline.
Okay.
But the response is, I said, well, the series is not doing very well. And this guy said, well, since it's not, and the stories are not good. His response was, well, since when has Doctor Who been good? And then I realized something. The same thing can probably be said to a slightly different scale for the BBC executives. They have probably been running Doctor Who. Or they've been in positions of power for about the time that Doctor Who has been in decline. That's all they know. They also, though, lack perhaps the awareness to say that just because something exists poorly for a period of time there are two things. It doesn't mean that it will exist indefinitely in a poor condition. It also doesn't mean that you're entitled to receive poor quality material as the audience or produce that poor quality material indefinitely. Yeah. So that's the problem, is I think the BBC just thinks it can't go away. It can't go away.
Plenty still to discuss. We're nearly an hour in, so I'm going to be quite pacey. Continued on the BBC delusions. Everybody has been drummed in. This is the message, and if you go off message, you're probably not going to work again. That's probably what people are being influenced by, says my source. His opinion only, but he's talking and listening to these people. So just gives you a kind of taster. So I understand what she's saying, Jane Tranter, about Rob Sheeman, because sorry, but just to be really clear about this, you're talking about a black gay male actor who they put in a role who had virtually no experience. And so he's trying to say they know there's so much embarrassment in their situation. I mean, sex education was the only thing he'd done on any big level. You're putting him into a major lead role. You're taking someone from a soap. You're making it all LGBTQ. You're completely changing what it is. No one's going to come out with it because they've got other shows in the pipeline. So nobody dares say the reason why it tanked. Nobody dares tell them. And they all are talking to each other from the sounds of it, and they all think it was all right. I mean, do you agree, Stefan, with what the source is saying about his vibe about it?
I'd have to say, yeah. I think, I know we're in challenging times where probably people feel when they're in more senior positions that they have to agree with how the world is changing, rather than be a bit stubborn at times and go, no, I don't like that. I want it this way, you know. What the source is saying there, I think, is probably very true. They've probably settled on it and gone, well, we've ticked all the boxes to what the demographic or the Gen Zs will probably like to see. But they've probably not thought about us as the lifetime fans and gone, how will they react to it?
Yeah. I mean, Jordan, I mean, if there's anything you want to pick up on, you don't have to, but, you know, you can see that what he's been saying about all this and what he's hearing.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame that you do think, oh, maybe it's failed because of who they've picked. But the problem is, getting a black gay actor should have just played the Doctor, but they decided to change the character to make him like the actor playing him. I think which is their biggest mistake, to be honest.
I think my biggest bit is what the source was saying here, Chris, was about, I mean, he says LGBT, he says, you know, you've got somebody from a soap opera. I think he's adding it all together, saying you've completely changed Doctor Who. That's what you've done. You've busted it.
Well, it's the thing that at least I assume many people here, I have heard it myself, at least in creative writing classes, you know, their first class, always the cardinal rule that you never want to break, and a lot of people break, is putting concept over character. And here the concept, instead of saying, let's create a character, the new version of this character of Doctor Who, the concept was, let's be very honest, let's make Doctor Who alphabet soup, whatever you want to call it, LGBTQ first, and then perhaps, I don't know if the race came into things or not, perhaps it did, but the concept was, let's make the Doctor essentially LGBTQ. And then from there, it solidifies it, it hardens it, and it restricts where the character can go. So it was they broke the first rule, in my opinion, of what your source I think is saying, of great storytelling, and it went from there, and it went downhill from there.
Yeah. Final one on this one, plenty more to come. He was talking about Jane Tranter and what she said, and just to kind of spice it up, she talked at the Royal Television Awards about the great RTD, and I thought everybody might find that quite interesting to hear what her opinions were. This is before we watched season 1 and the specials. Oh, how things have changed. Are you ready?
No, Russell was really clear right from the start that if we were going to come back, if these old faces were going to come back again, then we were going to come back and do something which was as big as it could possibly be. And that's not just about a supersized Doctor Who programme, which, as you can see from that, it is bigger than it was before. But Russell was really clear he was going to come back and do the Whoniverse. And so all of those other things that Russell describes were part of what he said to Julie and myself right from the start. This, if we're going to come back, we're going to be all in, and this is what we're going to do. And 2 years later, slightly tarder, teeny bit older, you know, that is what we've done. I mean, what Russell did, he was so clear and so determined right from the start, and he sort of kicked open every door that there was to kick open, and we follow through. And often when you're an executive producer of a big show, one of the hardest things is to try and get all those other things around it, because these days it's not just about, if you're doing a big franchise show, it's not just about one thing, it's about the many. And you often have to go around begging for the many, or kind of like proving your worth. And Russell was kind of like, he was absolutely determined, and he's never flagged on that. You know, he's not let anything go, that if we're going to do it, this is what we're going to do it. And it's meant that it's created so many opportunities in so many different fields to be able to support the wonder that is Doctor Who. But you don't just watch the television programme. There's masses of other stuff to look at too.
What do you think?
Tiptoeing.
I mean, it stunned me to hear they were so confident, so sure that, and we throw money and backing and support to RTD, and he's going to then able to be yeah, right. Well, how did that go? I mean, I'm watching that thinking you just don't know what's about to hit you at all. They're dumbstruck, they're silent, they don't know what to do. So let's move on with that one. So as myself said, Bad Wolf are nowhere near the game. They're not. That's why she said, look, we're not going to be even the first to know. What that means is they are so far out the loop, there's no way. After all of this, no matter what they're saying publicly, they know it's not worked, because obviously, where's season 3? She could have had the rabbit out the hat, couldn't she, and just said, look, we're in the final part of negotiating season 3, so I would just wait. You know, she can't. Look, they're already commissioning every time you go on Netflix, Amazon, Disney and Apple. How come they're not commissioning Doctor Who? Because they're not commissioning Doctor Who. End of. John Yulden, you should be looking after yourself. You're ill tonight, but thank you. I agree with the source. They are not getting the gig again, and that's where they're lashing out like wolves howling into the wind. You'd think he'd been in one of my English lessons. Thank you very much, John. I should be showing you due courtesy, of course. I'll do a nice cheapo one. Here we go. There you go. Thank you very much. So, right. Oh, here we go, folks. I had to throw this one in. It's the ratings, and this is going to put a cat among the pigeons for anybody who's in denial. Here we go. Yeah, a bit of play your ratings right. Here we go. Right. So, what were the ratings? Well, on the left, you'll see what came out recently with Barb. Now, these are the final consolidated before they add on a few more as well. And you'll see there, Robot Revolution, and I'll just do one or two examples. It jumped from 3.57 to 4.3 million. If you look at Reality War, our peak at the end, it went from 3.4 to 3.8. So after 3 months, it jumped another 400,000. I mean, and I'm putting on the right there, Celebrity Traitors has 11.7 million. And they told us you can't, overnights and consolidated and television landscapes dying. I'll show a few and then I'm going to come straight to Stefan, but you can see there, they've not jumped up much in all this time. And then we've got other programs like Traitors. Strictly Come Dancing gets 6.42. You've got The Great British Sewing Bee gets 4.41. That beats Robot Revolution. That beats Lux. That beats The Well. That beats Lucky Day. That beats, I mean, just sewing. Much cheaper. So, Stefan, is this a success or not?
Well, if you're being factual, no, it's not at all. It's not a success at all. I mean, look, even if you look at Interstellar Song Contest, you know, you're saying the maximum is 4.27 million there. But the real reason it's that high was because, one, it was the first episode, I believe, in the series where they didn't show it. Well, you couldn't watch it before the actual broadcast, which a lot of people did, where they tune in and watch it at midnight or 8 a.m. in the morning or whatever it was in the UK. And the second thing you've got to consider as well is it was it prior to the Eurovision Song Contest that evening?
Yeah.
You probably had a lot of people who just had it on in the background, weren't actually watching it. But if they're considering how many devices were playing it, think about all those people that had Eurovision parties that probably literally just had it on waiting for the Eurovision Song Contest. So that boosts that up. I know things like British Sewing Bee, they're popular with certain audience and they've probably got a very loyal fan base, to be quite honest with them. But like you said, it's cheaper to make. They'll look at those figures and go, you're not doing anything for us. What are you doing for us?
The other thing is, and it's kind of one of my threads tonight, is we've got Bad Wolf saying it's all about change. It's all about change. And if a program doesn't change, hold on. Great British Sewing Bee does exactly what it says on the tin. Strictly Come Dancing just gets on with it. They've messed around on the edges, but that's it. Traitors, you get what you're given. You want to tune into something with a strong format and it just goes at it with different people and different stories. Doctor Who had a brilliant format. I really don't know why you wanted to change it. And I'm sorry, Chris, but I find this shocking. Doctor Who has the best format because when you want a bit of change, you change producer or you change the Doctor. It's easy. You don't have to then add different stylistic, fourth wall breaks, a bit of comedy, and let's have a musical. They have lost the plot regarding this.
Well, you can't. It's an oxymoron. You can't have change when it's the same thing happening. And as you say, these people, they're the same producers, and to a certain extent, on a wider scale, it's the same group of people that are running Doctor Who, as Jane Tranter herself said, for the last more than 20 years. And so change, on one level, is you can make the argument is impossible because nothing's changing. It's the same people, the same viewpoints, the same ideas. And if they've been doing it for so long, they probably very likely have run out of the main ideas that they're going to share and tell. The only thing left is change that breaks away, that breaks too many rules and fundamentally changes the program to become something else, until the Doctor, as we said, is now unrecognizable from being the core character he was before. And it no longer says on the tin, as you say, it no longer delivers what people expect, which is a fun television program for families. So, yeah, it's become about what should be the norm is just a buzzword at this point to probably make people think, oh, well, we have at least a plan going forward. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah. Jordan, is your family, are they fans of Doctor Who, or is it just you?
So my dad was more classic Who. He's watched a bit of New Who on and off over the years. My brother's quite into New Who, but he gave up. up after Capaldi and Moffat, like I think a lot of us did, to be honest.
So you see, in my family, I can see when people peel off, and you start to see. Obviously, when I was a teacher, I could tell from the pupils, because a lot of them, when I left teaching 2 years ago, they didn't know what Doctor Who was. It had just gone. And there were always a group that loved Doctor Who. And when I came in my office, they liked my Doctor Who posters. But then suddenly that was gone. That was just completely gone. So you could see. Now, if you can just see here on the big table before we move on too far, I'm not going to do a heavy one tonight, but just to show you it properly, you can see the overnights, everybody, from Space Babies to Reality War. And you can see season 2 clearly did worse on the overnights than season 1. 7 days, 7-day cumulative. It was a disaster. And let's not forget, what happened to the audience appreciation figures for season 2? They don't like to report them. I wonder why. So there's all that nonsense. Now, I've added more to it. So if you want to look at consolidated, because you know what they're like, they only like to talk about consolidated. There's season 15. And then you'll see I've added a new column, which is their new consolidated. It's a bit like Doctor Who and New Earth, isn't it? And you can see how much it's added if you think it has. It still doesn't make it look good when you compare it to Capaldi's last season, or Jodie's, or season 13. If you look at the average at the bottom, it is still falling. The only jump at the end is they've moved season 15's consolidated up by 600,000 in the end. They've found some extra figures. But I don't see anything there to be proud about that says this series is a success. I see nothing. I mean, Chris, I could throw loads of figures at you, but you can see the colours I'm coding them as. They're getting lower and lower.
Yeah, they're hemorrhaging. If there's good color that goes with hemorrhaging, you know, there is this. I wish I could remember the name of the man that did it, but there was someone at the BBC and quoted 1991. I apologize for not knowing the name, but he was quoted saying that one of the reasons why Doctor Who went away was, of course, because the show was no longer popular. It couldn't reach its audience share, and they were getting, and this is the figure, they were getting an average of about 4 million viewers. All these numbers are lower than the average of numbers were in the Sylvester McCoy era. So if they were poor, if it was poor and unsustainable at 4 million viewers, probably weekly, whatever, why would it be sustainable with less than 2 million? You know, less, again, it's what I said about the economics. If there's nothing left, how do you produce more? So, you know, there's it's delusional at this time. It needs to go away for a little while, or at the least that's what's going to happen, I think, no matter what people want.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of chat, I know, but I'm just trying to give you the final figures. So you can see the season 1 average, 2.27 overnight. It fell to season 2, 1.89 overnight. So that's not good. The consolidated went from 3.7 to 3.78 on their new figures. So I've updated that. It went up by 80,000. What an improvement. It's up by 2%, but the overnights are down by 16%. Isn't it interesting? And if you want to just have a headline for the whole of this RTD2 era, from Space Babies to the Reality War, he lost 16.5% of the audience on overnights. Okay, then, on 7 days, he lost 32% of the audience. On their consolidated figures, which they love, as you know, and they've just added to them, he lost 5% of the audience. So please go fathom, change, forcing all this stuff on Doctor Who has so worked. So worked. Very, very disappointing. And I just keep throwing this one back in. When the source heard the BBC talking to each other, the ratings are fantastic. What? I just don't get it, Stefan. What is it about our country at the moment, or is it all societies where we don't listen to the truth? The truth is there, but we have to say something else.
I think it's just because we're not in a great position as a country as it is, and I think we're clinging on to what we still have in certain aspects. And unfortunately, Doctor Who's one of those things where people have probably clung on. I mean, if I'm being truthful, when I watched these 2 series, I was really hyped and really excited. And when I first watched it, I thought, oh, great. But like you said, I've watched scenes back now and I think, oh, I enjoyed that. You know. But then I think I compare it to New Who as a whole, and it just doesn't match up to anything certainly nothing that Eccleston did in that first series, and he only got a shot at 12 episodes or whatever it was. It's not compared really to anything Tennant's done. It's not compared to anything Matt Smith's done. Capaldi, I'll be careful what I say about Jodie Whittaker because I went to the same school as her, so I know a lot of the same people as her. But it wasn't for me. And then this era itself, like I said, it was built up so well, and there was a lot of public kind of engagement with it, especially with it being Shooty Gatwa, he's from the Architect Education and whatever else, and it just didn't live up.
And this is why it's interesting, Jordan. I'm a different generation. I'm the same age as your dad, but I was not excited by this era. But I was full of hope that RTD could pull it out the bag, but clearly no. And then he really served a curveball to Shooty, really.
Yeah. I think the thing is, Lightning was probably never going to strike in the same place twice. But I was quite excited after how bad Chibnall was. I was actually quite excited for RTD to come back. I thought, no, he's going to come back. He's going to do it right. But it's just been awful. 2 years of awful.
But isn't it interesting? I'm a different demographic. I'm not happy. Yeah. You're not happy. Stefan isn't happy. And I'll come to Chris now. Did it work?
No, it didn't. I wish that I could give you a surprise answer, but no, there's no. I think that it hasn't been working as a format, as a show for quite a while. I knew a 10-year-old girl when Jodie Whittaker was the Doctor, and we asked her, "Well, what do you think of Doctor?" She says, "No, she's just giving a bad David Tennant impression." And so, I guess I could say that. I'm sorry to say it because I don't know any of Jodie Whittaker's friends, but in the easier position than Stefan is. Part
of the fam.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, don't you put me in her fam? No.
You're a member of the fam.
I know. It's a bit of an inbred village where she grew up and whatever, but no.
Yeah, but simply no. It hasn't worked. And I will say that unlike Stefan and Jordan, I was not thinking to myself for a reason, not because I'm trying to be contrarian, but when RTD was announced, I didn't think to myself, "Oh, this will be great. It's safe hands," because I remembered still how I felt at the end of the RTD's first era. I enjoyed his era. I wasn't very fond of his of the 2009 specials. I might be in the minority, but I don't feel that the RTD era ended very well. Just the last 4 episodes.
End of Time was horrible.
End of Time was awful, and I feel the Waters of Mars totally.
Everyone turned into the Master.
Oh yeah, I think the end of Time was horrible.
Oh my
Waters
God.
of Mars completely got the character of the Doctor wrong.
Yeah, when you saw the Master in the dress and all the rest of it,
it was a precursor.
But that was the point. I remembered when RTD could be bad, in my opinion, could do things poorly. And so for that reason, I thought, well, I can't automatically feel that it will be great. It may be great. It may work, but he can do poorly, or he can do things not to a certain level. And sadly, I think that RTD's weaker tendencies going out.
So as you can see there, you can see the consolidated for Doctor Who after 3 extra cheating months. And then look at the overnights for Traitors. I mean, excuse me. Honestly, wash your mouth out, you people. There's the Bake Off, the Great British Bake Off. Again, do your comparisons. On the right-hand side are the series opener for each series. So Robot Revolution was our series opener, and for Consolidated got 3.5. Great British Bake Off got 3.1 this year, and you can see how that's been doing. So there's your comparisons just to help you through. So shall we hit Peter Purves? No, not hit Peter Purves.
No, don't hit him. Not as young as he was, please.
Yeah, he's 86. He's 86. I can't do that.
No.
By the way, I did say to the lads earlier, Before Space Babies, I did do a preamble to my show. I set tests for RTD, thinking, I wonder how it's going to be. If everybody, I mean, it's a bit strange and pixelated because YouTube today's played up no end. However, if you just watch this, it's only for a minute or so, and then I'll ask the lads first. In our summary of season 1 and 2 and the RTD era, this is what I was guessing and wondering how it could play out. Here we go. As season 14, or season 1 dawns, with a great American input fueled by American dollars and Disney's streaming capacity, many fans wondered whether the Doctor Who would be able to stay quintessentially British. Russell T Davies, self-appointed gatekeeper in the media and custodian of Doctor Who, previously an award-winning writer, clearly had a dangerous tightrope to walk. One false move and the show could be lost, and the Disney contract and the BBC interest diminished or even gone. Get it right, and Doctor Who dominates the global market like some Hollywood franchise. It's not an envious task. Does he pull it off with this new season of 8 episodes? Will Doctor Who be turned into a slapstick, end-of-pier, silly novelty piece, just as the whole world's eyes are open to Doctor Who, and hopefully its magic and its uniqueness? Will the frequent, confronting interviews from cast and crew and the joyous delving into Doctor Who lore, like the Timeless Children, prove a masterstroke, or leave Doctor Who fans across the globe and online fighting like cats in a sack, arguing over whose show it is, and who owns it, and who it's for? And I'm a real fan, you're not. This is certainly an historic, possibly seminal moment for our favourite show. Yeah, I mean, it failed that tightrope.
I don't think he even tried to walk across the tightrope, did he?
No. And actually, if he'd have ran and then jumped. He had the Mavity ballet shoes, and it would have been all right.
Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah, so here we go. Doctor Who is lost. It's gone too far, says poor Peter Purves, who's doing his lovely little podcast with Colin Baker and Valerie Singleton and everybody, and just give this out. So here we go. I'll just show you, and then we'll see what everybody thinks about this. Doctor Who legend doesn't like the show now as it's lost what makes it special. Now, in the detail, it's very extravagant and there are lots of special effects. You can see the money on the screen. It's a multi-million-pound production. It looks incredible, but it's not really Doctor Who for me. It couldn't go back now. It's gone too far. It's gone too far to go back. This is, lads, my serious problem. How many fans, even watching my little show, have said, including me, over the last 2 years, it actually needs a hard reboot. It actually needs a rest. It's been so damaged, as I think Peter Purves is politely saying, that to unravel it will need a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it's just about building it back up with the fan base. It would take years, but it's just all word of mouth. Fans going, oh, I don't watch it anymore. No, you should watch it. The way it's come back now, and it's more like the old show. That's all it takes. But it would take a long time and work, I think.
I'm just wondering, Jordan, if you can unravel what we've seen.
Maybe it's wishful thinking, just because I want it to. Maybe that's the issue.
I know it's sci-fi, Jordan, and you can kind of write anything you want, almost, if you get my gist.
Yeah.
But there's Timeless Children still to repair. There's the Cyber Lord. Yeah. There's Rogue. There's the Bi-Generation. There's the Sledgehammer Double TARDIS. There's the David Tennant weeding in Donna Noble's garden. It just goes on and Sutek sleeping on the TARDIS for 50 years. And how far can we unravel it all? I know there is an argument, Stefan, that they say just ignore it, like we did the kiss in the Doctor Who movie, and just carry on.
Yeah. There's only so much you can ignore before it gets to the point where you just break out in anger. I think, like we've said, it needs a rest. It needs a sort of a reset. in some respects, I know when it came back in 2005, there was that background story of, yes, there was a time war in between, you know, the last time it was on air, let's just say. And a lot happened and whatever else, but it gave something to work on. And I suppose it's almost like we've gone through another cycle of circa 20 plus years of it being on the screens again. And I think more nowadays, people get tired and they get bored quicker than they used to. You know, think about, you know, kids watching a TV show. They don't watch full TV shows anymore. They watch shorts on YouTube. So that's a problem in itself, is duration. And then maybe in one respect, you kind of look at how the classic series used to work, where you used to have, you know, 4 or 6 parts of a serial that were only 25 minutes long to 30 minutes long. It gave you something to go, I need to watch that part next week. I've just started watching that. I think the lack of sort of cliffhangers, there's so much that needs repairing to the structure of the show, not let alone the storylines and what's been.
Well, can I just test something with you three, because you're all younger than me. So you might have a different opinion of Classic Who. Now, he's from the Classic Who era, and he's talking about the storylines were simpler. He's praising the budget, and he's praising how it looks and great production values. But we said that about the Jodie Whittaker era looked great. The Chris Chibnall era looked great, but the stories didn't quite gel, etc. And I think this is the problem. And we've just been talking about the shooty Doctor, about he changes his silhouette all the time, so we didn't know the substance of it. It was all about what's on the surface. And to me, this just sums up the era. All money, all fur coat, no knickers. It just has no content. It has no substance. And so, as Peter Purves is saying, it looks pretty, but it's not Doctor Who. It looks pretty, but it's been completely changed. It's been ruined. I mean, Chris, I am more of the opinion now that you really can't undo the absolute complete mess that's been made. I think it's preferable to just start again.
It probably is. The risk with that approach and outcome, which probably might be the most logistically sound, is that you risk, only a risk, but you risk certainly much of your audience saying, well, it's not Doctor Who now, because it's no longer going back to William Hartnell. It's a totally different show. But I agree that it probably at this point is the easiest way forward, is starting over. You could take the middle ground, and this will be the hard part. Again, this will be another risk. But since everything is a risk, I think we can equally discuss it. You can go back. You can say, okay, at what point do we surgically remove some of this show? At what point can you go back and say, from this point onwards, the show could continue as it was before, with not a lot of this corrupted, you could say, or changed, or impossible to reconcile history going forward. And so, in my opinion, that would be after Peter Capaldi. That means saying, okay, Jodie Whittaker's no longer canon, Neo Tennant's no longer canon, Ncuti Gatwa and whatever Billy Piper is no longer canon. There are some, indications and rumors that behind the scenes, legally, that may be the case, at least from Neo Tennant onwards. All the Disney stuff is now tied up in red tape, so we'll never see it again. If that's the case, then I would say the argument to cut things off after Peter Capaldi and then almost surgically restart it from that point is a possibility. Whichever way you choose for it, it's a risk at this point, because, again, time back to Rod Sherman, where does the show go from here? I think I personally favor the hard reboot or starting up from Peter Capaldi again. Both options are tough. That's what I think.
Well, as our source said to me, it's only his opinion, but he was saying you can't approach the BBC top knobs and say, I've got an idea for another Doctor Who series, and it's writing out 2 of your doctors. You know what I mean? The BBC just can't live with that, especially if your argument is it's the first female Doctor, wiped, the first gay Doctor, the first black Doctor, wiped. And as he said, how are you going to go in a room to BBC executives and get away with that and get a pitch successfully achieved? We just know that wouldn't happen in this era. Lewis White here. I know the show was over when I saw the scene when the Doctor came through the screen and met those fans wearing all the merch. That, Stefan, I really don't know what... They've reminded me of something else now. That was so meta. What the hell do you do once you've seen the Doctor meet Doctor Who fans? What's
Breaking
left?
the fourth wall. Breaking the fourth wall. It was. I know they toyed with the idea of it for many years. But thought, don't do it. Hartnell did it in the Feast of Stephen, but it was a short speech. But then they went and did that this time round. I thought, you can't do that. And I think just going back to the previous point where you mentioned about, going into the BBC execs and erasing the past two Doctors, that is them admitting that they are wrong. Look at what happened with the BBC with Savile. they didn't admit they were wrong until it was fully exposed.
Yeah.
That's the kind of caliber of people that you've got to deal with talking the BBC. They're not easy to deal with, and they are very set in their ways. They think they have a demographic on what they need to provide in terms of programming and adhering to what people are paying license fees for. But at the same time, you used to have points of view on telly and you used to be able to put this stuff across. But I reckon even if this topic of Doctor Who came up, I don't think they would broadcast a segment on the negativity on it, because I think they just want to protect the brand so much and not damage it from any further investors.
Well, John Uden, thank you very much, John. We've got a lot watching, only 42 likes. Maybe they dislike what we're saying. Maybe they're just they're hovering over the hype button for later. No, come on, folks, hit that like button and support Brendan and the gang. This is our wrap show before I get on that plane to Italy. It's my last chance to do a live show for a week and a half. Shock horror. If there was any missing episodes that come out when I'm away, I'm going to be on the warpath. And of course, we've got our cliffhanger schedules coming up. I mean, for example, Les, the Philip Morris, the best cliffhangers from him. Look at some of these choices. Interesting. Well, lots to tune in on, even while I'm disappearing for a week or so, everybody. But I don't know. I am really, people have said, the ones I've been lucky who've watched me all the way through these streams, I am really losing the faith. I am really losing the interest. I've lost the excitement for new Doctor Who. I need that back. And if you don't get that excitement back, it becomes something where you might miss it now and again. You might actually just not turn in. And I think it becomes dangerous when you've got die-hard Doctor Who fans who are saying, I don't know if I'm bothered to watch. I think it's in such a dangerous place. And look, if one person from the Doctor Who past said something critical, okay, Rob Sheeman, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Peter Purves, hold on a minute. This is not one canary in the cave and in the mine. This is loads. Loads of people are warning that there's a problem here. And my source added, the show isn't about change. The show is a format with scary monsters and lots of running around. That's the show. It has a tone. It has a heartbeat. And if you want to make a different kind of show, go away and make a different kind of show. Don't vandalize something that is a beloved institution. I mean, I can't fault that, because I think that's what we're all thinking, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
it's not. I know probably not adding as much content here, but I think we're all in agreement with those sorts of comments. It's just.
But that tells you something else. I don't know what you're going to say. Two of you and you onto the channel, and I'm only getting to know Chris. I don't know what you're going to say about every Doctor. I don't know what you're going to. And so it's interesting that we are agreeing on a load of this. In other words, it seems to me, as I've kind of started to deduce for a while, yeah, you might go on Twitter and see all the people going, oh, you lot. But actually, most people seem to be saying, I'm out. Most people are saying this is crap. Most people are saying it's been crap for a while. Most people are saying, I hope RTD doesn't write anymore. That seems to be the vibe. It really does. I mean, come on, is there anybody else out there who is wanting a season 3 with RTD and, you know, some drag queen slug appears and then we'll do a race message and then we'll do, the planet where all the men get pregnant. Hey, you know, I'm up for it. Are you? No. Oh, yes, sorry. We've got 5 episodes left when Russell Tovey gets it on with a sea devil.
Yeah.
Hey, and makes a she devil,
Bring it
baby.
on.
Yeah, I know. It's on so run. There's me filling my potty when I was a kid watching the Sea Devils, and now it's all about you go to bed with them.
Well, they are our ancestors, you know, but yeah, you just don't do it. Well, it's bestiality, but in a different way, innit? You know, it's just
let's have a dodgy moment then, Stefan. In all the years watching Doctor Who, is there any monster or villain you watched on Doctor Who where you thought, I'd love a bit of I wouldn't mind meeting them?
Well, not in that way, no. I mean, arguably, I don't know, you could say Missy if you're into the older woman, you know. There isn't really, I suppose. In terms of that's just sort of taking it a bit too far, isn't it?
And that's what I mean. RTD is really, you know, jumping the shark here, Jordan. I mean, honestly, same question to you. When you've watched all your Doctor Who's, all your monsters, all your weird aliens, all your villains, how many of them were you fancying going, oh, I wouldn't mind a spin-off with them? Hey!
The odd Slovene, maybe.
And I'll come to Chris in a minute. I'll just get through these. Apologies for all my comments. As someone who's only gotten out of their teens and there's no nostalgia value, classic Doctor Who is just the perfect show that modern Who desperately needs to be again. Well, interesting, Lewis. As I said to these two, write to me, get on the show. I am interested in the different demographics because when they say, oh, the ratings are amazing and we're reaching people out there, who are they reaching? Is there somebody on the far side of the moon who's watching Doctor Who? We didn't know they were there and we've reached that demographic. Because I'm not aware of these new demographics at all. I mean, do they reach the dead now? Is this Revelation of the Daleks? Are we now kind of broadcasting to the dead? Because that's all that's left, I think, really. Chris, I'm being harsh tonight.
I think so. I think certainly we are at a point of Revelation of the Daleks, which is that we're probably the next thing that comes is the hiatus. Although, very honest, I think it's probably we're after Survival in the Wilderness series. But no, I think that Doctor Who's become something that the discussions are, I think in many ways, are all the wrong things. Instead of, wow, what was that monster and what was cool, or you remember that moment where this happened, or even in the new series where the dynamics of remember when the planet was stolen, or where the universe blew up, or things like that. Now it's why isn't Shooty wearing the same type a consistent costume, or why is Shooty dancing in the nightclub, or things like that, or you could trace it back a few years earlier, some of the other Doctors. Or worse, why is no one talking about the show at all? Yeah. And so certainly over here, because unlike everyone else on this panel, I'm an American, and so over here, at least there's probably some type of discussion happening in the UK about the state of Doctor Who. What do you think people are talking about Doctor Who over here? Do you think people are talking about Doctor Who? Does anyone even know that Doctor Who exists anymore?
Isn't that the killer? When you're not talked about, that's the worst thing, isn't it? I used to have to say that to the kids at school. At least you're talked about, even if you're getting slagged off. If you're not talked about, you're not even important. Now here, he says Bad Wolf have made a mistake, which is changing it so much that you're taking it away by trying to imprint what you think a show should be. You're changing it to the point where it's not that show anymore. That is not the job of an executive producer and showrunner when it comes to a beloved long-running show. In other words, a media producer, my source, is saying what they've done is tantamount to vandalism, and wrecked it. So let's change the subject for a second there. What about Billy Piper is not the Doctor? Haha, Stefan, I'm going to throw this curveball at you straight away, right? So Colin Baker, he was chatting away, and he said she can't be the next Doctor, and he explained, I don't have a clue what's going on, but I suspect it's a load of old malarkey. I think they didn't know what to say, so they did that. I think there will be something involving Billy Piper, but she's not the Doctor. Who can she be? She's someone else. It's like maybe being the Master. Well, I could be, I suppose. You can do anything with this show. So if they choose to do it, they could do it. It's not exactly a vote of confidence, is it, Stefan?
No, I mean hello, was not convincing at all. Let's face it. We know the decision was a rushed decision. It's quite amusing how Christopher Eccleston was discussing something or other and saying, I'd like to bring Billy Piper in as the Doctor and, make everyone go, ooh. Then there's this whole thing of shooting his knees and whatever else. And I just think, it was a rushed decision. At the end of the day, she's got a young family herself, Billy Piper. And is she committed to, if, let's just say there is a season 3 in the next year or two, do we think that she is actually going to be committed to doing this? It might just be I don't know. I think they're going to have to do something where it's either a case of a one-off special or something like that, where it's a case of, TARDIS malfunctioned, or the toy maker's been playing with, regeneration. And that's why it's been familiar faces for all this time and whatever else. But then again, it's the whole thing of going backwards and admitting that the sections of this have been wrong and all that. I really don't think she is the Doctor, I'm being honest. I think if she was, there'd be a lot more publicity about it, and there'd be a.
Well, she's not available. She's not filming for us.
No.
I asked my source ages ago about, do you think there'll be a special? And he said, "Oh, do me a favour." He said, the BBC don't throw money around at the moment. They haven't for a while. He said it costs about 3 million an episode to make of any drama. Yeah. And he said, so if you do a special, they'll be going, but why? Why are we doing it? What, just because you want to finish the series? What? Where's the season? What, is season 3 attached to her? And if you said, no, it's a one-off special, they'll go, I can't be bothered. Why are we spending money after this? Let's just leave it.
Unless it's part, like I said, unless it's part of some bigger plan of, I've heard rumours of this whole, they're going to do a small series of different Doctors per episode. It's going to build to something. I think it's a load of coswallops, to be quite honest with you. But I think, again, the best option they've got, what they should have done is it should have just faded to black as he was regenerating, fine. Or they should have even left it on a cliffhanger so that Shooty could have stayed on if he wanted to. But I think the biggest point here is that I think they would have to cast the new Doctor permanently. They would have to pick up from Billy Piper, and I think it just has to be a quick, knock to the ribs, and
But this was the rule with the Doctor Who movie, and then the follow-up when remember when RTD started in 2005? He deliberately didn't link to the Paul McGann Doctor. Now, why did he do that? Because he didn't want a continuity problem. So why the hell has he served a bouncer to whoever follows? Out of order, yellow card. In fact, I'm sending him off for that. That is outrageous. How dare you throw a googly at the next showrunner when you wanted a clean slate yourself in 2005? RTD, follow the same rules you applied to yourself. Honestly, I just think it's outrageous what he's done there. Instead of
John Nathan Turner.
Confident. Sorry?
A bit John Nathan Turner, like he wants to own the show.
Yeah, no. Well, I've said for ages, Jordan, he wants to own the show because he's got the regeneration Tinkerbell fairy dust across every Doctor now, even classic Doctors. We can't enjoy Pyramids of Mars without knowing Sutek's kind of, humping the TARDIS. We can't enjoy Omega now without knowing that his final stages on Doctor Who, he's turned anorexic. It's shocking.
Yeah, and the thing is, his language has changed massively since he took over in 2005. Interviews then, he'd be going, oh no, I've got to keep the TARDIS the same. It's important to keep the show the same, all the iconography. And he's just a completely different person now. It's his way or no way, in the end of the day.
I'm getting worried about Chris. He's turned it to the Black Guardian. Look at him there. Look, he's the Black Guardian. Look, he's...
Sorry, it's just the lighting down here. Like I said, I'm in a basement here, and there's not too much direct lighting.
It's all right. It's all right. There you go. I'm cheering you up. There's Billy Piper not making Doctor Who. There you go. So let's have a look. Another companion, Millie. I was not dropped. She sounds like Obelix. You remember that Obelix was dropped as a baby in Asterix. Right, let's have a look. Actress Millie Gibson addresses the tough position she was in when there were unflattering tabloid reports about her role on Doctor Who. I couldn't be like, it's a lie. They'd be like, well, that's spoilers. It was quite hard to stand up for myself without ruining the show. I was like, oh, this is horrific because it just looks like it is true. And you know what, lads? I remember doing loads of shows with John Yulden, with Rachel, with Gary, and we were discussing this a lot last year. And I remember asking Rachel's opinion with her acting background, and we were talking about, wouldn't your agent defend her? But of course, if it's given away, well, she's coming back. The poor lass was left high and dry. I expected more of RTD or one of the production team. I mean, RTD's written the bloody script. So I'd have expected he would have some clever line to say, leave Millie Gibson alone. There's a greater scheme in the universe. And you know, some clever line, since he came up with this clever idea. And by God, Chris, what a clever idea it was that you have a companion. She goes to find her dad in the interregnum between season 1 and season 2. And then we get another companion who suddenly changes from being an independent nurse to wanting to go, where's Poppy? Where's my Poppy? I'm looking for Poppy. And then, you know, and all of a sudden the doctor and the Rani's going, I'm barren, I'm infertile. I'm firing blanks. I mean, honestly, it was like, what the hell is this series?
Well, I think that, honestly, I think that Millie Gibson has probably in a permanently difficult position when it comes to discussing her time with Doctor Who, because she likely, I imagine that she's probably bound by some types of NDAs or legal gobbledygook, or just simply maybe personal human kindness, courtesy, and anything that she says would probably reveal something unpleasant about the background of the series. And I imagine she doesn't want to be the next Christopher Eccleston, kind of hinting and saying, you know, the production team was a mess and everything was a nightmare and everything was chaotic. And then she ends up having to sound like she was, either she ends up being the bad guy or she ends up being the unwanted hero or martyr for that situation. Now she says she wasn't dropped. Well, you know, you could, words can have very slippery meanings and very changeable, you know, context about, well, what, maybe you weren't dropped, but maybe you were reduced. Maybe you were, pushed aside to and removed, reevaluated. I personally, as a fan, and with some amateur writing experience, cannot see her storyline and think to myself that this was a properly organic and well constructed storyline where you go from every time she cries and feels sad, snow falls, to, oh, you're a regular normal person, and your mom just gave you up for adoption.
Remember,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, let's see if we can all pull in on each other here. If we look at as Chris said, if we look at the Ruby Sunday plot, first series, yeah, I know the snow thing was, still don't know what was going on. But yeah, she found a real man. Okay, that was basically the story of the first season, and Sutek couldn't deal with it. Then she needed a rest. When she came back, she was the only one who she was telling the doctor, can't you see this is a weird wish world? Mm. She was the only one who, I actually enjoyed Lucky Day. And I think she was the most interesting character in the series. And yet we were then being led to watch this Belinda Chandra and Poppy, and I need to get back by 7:30 and I've got a shift, and it's, oh, shut your face. I didn't want Tegan 2. I need to get back to Heathrow Airport. The flight takes off at 2. You know, I got sick of that. You know, please, if you really are in the TARDIS, you'd love it, wouldn't you? You'd love it. I'd be like Sarah Jane Smith, not wanting to leave. I really, you know, come on. So all this nonsense about, I need to get back because I've got to got some 2 pasties to put in the oven. Away. It's crap.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. In my honest opinion. Now, of course, others, I don't want to take away from what Stephen and Jordan, their opinions. In my honest opinion, the actors can say anything they want to make everything seem palatable and pleasant. This is clearly, honestly, in my opinion, an example for both actresses of a behind-the-scenes change in the storyline, a neutralization of a storyline to be able to change the situation behind the scenes and bring other actors along. For Millie, for whatever reason, in my opinion, the background of whatever the background was, her storyline was neutralized. For Belinda, I think it's a little clearer. The show was canceled. So instead of something continuing, it was ended like that. So there were clearly behind-the-scenes problems which neutralized both storylines. Belinda, in my opinion, was only brought along because they couldn't continue with Millie, with Ruby Sunday. Belinda doesn't continue because the show doesn't continue. Anything else is fantasy.
Well, I know, Jordan, you may have to go in a minute, so I'll get you in now.
Yeah, I will apologise.
Hey, no, they don't apologise. John here says, so what is true? Is the relatively compressed schedule that Doctor Who needs to be filmed under taking actors to the breaking point? Or, as Chris says, there's a different version. Did you enjoy the Ruby Sunday storyline, or did you think there's something underneath the surface here that's not right?
So, this storyline was awful, but Millie Gibson herself, I thought she was the best part about season 1. If you look at episodes like 73 yards, like she did carry the episode really well. But to be fair to her, it's her first big break. She's a young actor. How much does she really want to start talking negatively about her bosses? Do you know what I mean? That's not really setting her up. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I've been fed a few lines by the source, and the source said when he was talking to BBC Insiders ages ago that they said they had problems with the talent. Now, I don't think he meant Millie. So the only other one left is Shooty. And if Shooty's a problem as the talent, they need to change the chemistry. So Millie Gibson needed to be not sacked, because they did bring her back. And I think what they did is, as Chris was hinting at, they changed the plot line, but to buy Shooty time. Because as Rachel has said to me, and a lot of other people have said, and as you were hinting at, Jordan, she started Doctor Who before Shooty. She was running the show before Shooty finished with Sex Education. So she, in the end, by accident, was the lead actor, carrying a whole show at the age of 19. Then he comes in, hi babes, how you doing? And maybe takes over. And maybe, you know how that works. Johnny come lately.
Yeah,
so,
diva.
Yeah, not too sure about. So Jordan, I'll let you go because I know you've got to set off.
Thanks for anyway.
We'll do it
Jordan.
again.
Yeah, see you later.
Good night, Jordan. But yeah, I thought out of due politeness there. It's forever burned into my memory that out of season 1, the one with the highest ratings was 73 yards. Well, I think that says a lot. Even then, though, lads, I still don't think it landed. It was good for about 20 minutes, 22 minutes. As soon as they left that village, I thought they ruined it.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I think that it's a show that... Go ahead.
No, I have to agree with that one as well. It's just, you know, Millie, I think, like I said, there was a lot of these episodes in both Series 1 and Series 2 where there was this absence of the main cast, which I didn't really favour. You know, in the classic series, you got one episode every 40 or something where the lead actor's on holiday or ill or whatever.
Yeah.
But this seems to start being a recurring theme. But at the same time, you only had 8 episodes to go at. You know, it wasn't really acceptable, I don't think, to do that. I think Millie was thrown under the bus, quite frankly. I'm seeing a lot of people, which is quite refreshing in the chat, that are sort of saying, sort of agreeing with what we say about Millie. And again, I think one thing that stood out to me at the time when she was cast was when they were filming. Obviously, I followed her on Instagram and what have you, and she seemed very happy, like a genuine happy, like she really wanted to be part of this show, and then suddenly it all just sort of stopped. But it all sort of stopped around the time of when it was being broadcast. Something had obviously gone on, and then she was more just having selfies of herself on holiday and eating nice food and whatever else. Just sort of un-Doctor Who related on her personal sort of Instagram stories and whatever else. And I found it was a real shame because she is a very lovely person. I've known people who have crossed paths with her and just said she's a bundle of joy. And I think she really was thrown under the bus by the BBC in this sense, or Bad Wolf, or whoever it was who made it.
Well, Peter Harrington here. When was Church on Ruby Road filmed? I thought it was part of the special. But yeah, what we're saying is that Shooty will have arrived in his fresh, Persil washed underpants for the giggle, but that was just for that moment. We're talking about setting up the whole of season 1 filming block when she was launching it herself, and he was back with Sex Education. So I'm trying to think what the chronology is, Peter. Whether he was released by Sex Education for just the giggle, which would have been a day or two filming, whereas obviously the setup for the season. I mean, I just can't believe it. You've got an 8-episode series, and Shooty's not there for 2 of them. Don't give him the job. Give the job to somebody else. He's not that above everybody else in the ground, in the field. The iPaper interview with Millie Gibson also said this: that due to blatant comparisons with actress Billie Piper, who played Rose Tyler, another young blonde Doctor Who companion from a working class background, RTD insisted that Gibson chop her hair into a short bob so she didn't look a bit too much like Billie. Oh, it's like, well, maybe she was too much like Billie, a 19-year-old working class girl. Maybe you need to think of something else, RTD. Pull her hair. Now, here's a last one to throw at you before we go. Did you see this one, Chris, about the Rani?
Yes, I did.
What do you reckon to it? I'll quickly summarize to people what's going on. Stephen Moffat's original plans, as you can see there. We've just got a bit of... let's have a look. It's all right. I know Stefan's just setting up his other headphones. The final episodes of Doctor Who's most recent season are controversial for many reasons. But one of the most exciting and in turn frustrating twists was the reveal that the mysterious Mrs. Flood, who had spent the better part of 2 seasons snidely breaking the fourth wall to address the audience throughout multiple episodes, was the Rani. Yeah, set up. Now, I know she hadn't been in it since Time and the Rani, but there was an amazing idea, apparently from Stephen Moffat, as discovered by some Reddit users, that he was going to use the Rani in the 50th anniversary celebrations. To be honest, in the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann's regeneration scene. And so we had this element here. The Rani, long been depicted as the Doctor's adversary, in the earlier version of Night of the Doctor, her decision to shape 8's regeneration is an almost completely selfish one. She's primarily concerned with saving reality and, by extension, herself, albeit a decision that has an unexpectedly long-tail impact. And it goes on for a little bit. But Chris, you saw this as well. What did you think of this idea that the Rani was going to be in Night of the Doctor?
Well, what I think about it, part of it's colored by this comment from Stephen Moffat, at least from a 2012 interview. This is coming from Reddit. In a 2012 interview, Stephen Moffat explained why he had no interest in bringing back characters like the Rani, the meddling monk, or the Crotons. Quote, "No one knows who the Rani is. If there is a line, it's probably somewhere there. It has to be self-explanatory." Okay, so I think to a certain extent it probably just brings up in my mind the baffling, perhaps at times, logic of what is the thinking process of the showrunners this time. Why are they bringing certain things back? Why do they not bring certain things back? And Moffat says in 2012, I have no interest in bringing back the Rani. No one knows who she is. Then we find out that way back then, probably around that time, he was intending to bring back the Rani. And if I remember right, I think it says right here, my script team felt that I was throwing away the Rani on a mini episode, and we should hold her back. And while I didn't entirely agree, I took the point. Well, what were they going to hold her back for? I'm more interested in finding out. Well, what were the possible future plans? Obviously, nothing ever came about. She only just showed up now, and she shows up in a way where she literally says, "I'm the Rani." Well, and then take it back to RTD's era when he said, if we're going to bring back characters, we need to develop them, their return. We need to make the return feel meaningful and organic and special. When you bring back a character that no one has seen on the television series since 1987, widely, and the return is I'm the Rani, it would be like me showing up on Doctor Who and saying I'm Chris, with the expectation for the next episode that I kill the Doctor and take his place. And I'm important enough to kill the Doctor and take his place. And now it's called Chris Who. See what I mean? It's baffling.
But the other thing is, I have to say, all these great writers, and as Epic Fantasy here said, fan fiction writers took over the show. They ended up going back into Doctor Who canon. I never felt, Stefan, any needs to bring the Rani back. I didn't. I just didn't.
Not a need. I think it was. I've just seen another comment pop up in the chat, which is something I always thought was Missy would have been a better Rani. That would have been a better solution in the whole story of the show. You could have brought her back then, and then they could have had that finale with the Cybermen in Capaldi's last one with John Sim coming back as the Master. They could have had that little trio link up again. That might have been nice to see. Doing it that way, I think bringing back the Rani in this fashion, it was so predictable. As soon as you saw, mysterious lady, I called it straight away. I could have put a bet on it, I didn't, but it's predictable.
Predictable, and come up with some. I'm sorry, I think by now, Chris, it's a 62-year-old show. I think it's become lazy in this era. It's become lazy, I know they avoided the Daleks and the Cybermen, but to be quite honest, I was so relieved after what he waffled on about with Davros. I thought, thank God you're not bringing the Daleks back.
Well, there are rumors.
Yeah.
You think about other things that he could have brought back. There are rumors that the boss would have been revealed to be the Master, but now called the Boss because the word Master has impolitic connotations. The Sonic Screwdriver, of course, is a totally different shape. There were rumors some years ago, not connected to necessarily RTD, but for Chibnall, that but it's still the same idea that because of connotations of the police box, that the TARDIS will no longer look like a police box. So the show has reached the point where it's almost so familiar that it can become that it's fashionable to make it totally unrecognizable. Without doing anything innovative to justify such changes. And when the series and the people running the show reach that point, you have to start wondering, well, are these people fit to carry... If this show is an institution, a British institution, which perhaps matters more to the British public and fans like myself than simply a television show, is it wise to employ creatives who... to manage the show in such a way they feel that they own the show and therefore they can do whatever they want and change it to such an extent that it's now a ship.
But they were given so much power. I mean, you heard what Jane Tranter said when she was talking about RTD. They were giving him a green light to just go for it. He's got all these ideas. He's amazing. So we just open the doors for him. Oh, well, if he sensed that, he can do whatever he wants. He's the celestial toy maker of Doctor Who. But I just feel, Stefan, that Doctor Who is now kind of playing with itself. It really is now really bad. That's why people have turned away. It's not fresh. It's not trying to be something. It's trying to be somebody else. It's trying to be other shows. it's lost its heart, and when it's desperate, it keeps bringing some. Look, the British public don't know who Sutek is. They didn't know who Omega was, and they don't know who the Rani is, and they didn't care who the Mrs. Flood was, and they didn't know who Susan was either. So he had 5 characters that none of the British public, unless they were fans, would have known what was going on, and he decided to pin the whole series on that.
I think a good point on that is I think that was his reach to the old guard of fans that were involved in the show. Was I'll throw some classics in there that they'll know, so they'll feel like it's still aimed at them. I'm all in favour of obviously bringing back, previous villains or previous characters as a whole, but I think they've had to do it because I think that the quality of new content or new monsters or new baddies, whatever you want to call them, has been so poor. There's been nothing. Look, when RTD brought the show back in 2005, there was the Slovene were meant to be the next sort of big thing. We saw them 3 episodes in total. They didn't come back after then.
Yeah. So
you kind of question, well, why didn't that kind of get written on? Then it became about Weeping Angels and whatever. They have been a partial success. But in this new era, there's nothing that's been introduced that's even like The Silence is a good example. The Silence I thought had somewhere to go with that, and I think that was probably some of Moffat's best sort of writing when it came to his era in the show. He tried to create something new that he thought it's not predictable. It's something that's fresh. It's not the Daleks again. It's not the Cybermen again. And I think that's where Russell's gone wrong this time round. Is he's not had any fresh ideas in general.
I don't think he's been as brave and as canny as season 13, Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes.
Yes.
As Lewis Wright says here, the only monsters the public really know are Daleks, Cybermen, Zygons, Ice Warriors, Autons, and maybe the Yeti. I add to that Mr. Squinty Mint saying, the irony is the old fans want new monsters. Now, a lot of us have got the season 13 set. We've certainly watched it. You've all watched it. The thing is, the Zygons were new. The Crinoids were new. I could go on. Season 13 was so different to season 12. Philip Hinchcliffe, aged 30, and Robert Holmes were doing new, fresh stuff. And most diehard Doctor Who fans really say season 13 is the peak. And that's when Doctor Who was pushing forward, still scaring the kids, but pushing forward. So what? RTD knows this. So why the hell did RTD suddenly take this turn, which is, Chris, I didn't enjoy any of this new era. And do you know why? Because I hadn't watched anything before he did that blooming Davros talk. And as soon as he did that, I just thought, oh no, as I realized, familiarity breeds contempt. He's a fan so close to Doctor Who like we are, that maybe we are not the right people to run it, because we think, well, I know the rules of Doctor Who, so that means I know when I can break them. No. Familiarity breeds contempt. He thought he could do what he wanted to Doctor Who, and yet actually somebody like Philip Hinchcliffe was much more innovative, much more creative, and actually took more risks.
I suspect, my suspicion is this, and I'll give as a preamble what Stefan said about Millie Gibson. During the filming or so, she showed her happiness. Where was the source of her happiness? Through her social media of photos from the set, photos from the filming, photos from Doctor Who. There was a happiness there. What happens, whatever the behind the scenes is, by the time you come to the filming? The source of happiness, it should be 2 broadcasts, now seems to be what she's eating, where she's traveling, what she's doing, away from Doctor Who. The source, the center of her happiness seemed to have shifted away from Doctor Who. I suspect that that's what happened with RTD. I think that he wanted to be, his heart was there. His source of happiness was he wanted to be the showrunner of Doctor Who the first time around. That's where he wanted to be. That's where his creativity is. That's where his heart was. Second time around, my honest opinion is that I don't think that he really ultimately wanted to be there. At least it was different. I don't think that his heart was there anymore. I think maybe he felt that he had to be there, or maybe he had been persuaded to come through money, or maybe the idea or the intellectual challenge. I don't think that his heart was there anymore, and I think that it shows that his source of happiness was no longer Doctor Who as a creative outlet, and therefore the creativity suffered, and the show suffered, and the show has gone away, because I don't think the happiness was there anymore. I think that there was another, and if there was a center there, in my honest opinion, it was no longer the joy of being creative and being there and that happiness. I think it was the proclamation of a message, of a political ideology that took center stage. That was the concept over character, as I said, that broke that rule, as I said before. I don't think it was there to make Doctor Who. I think it was there to make a statement.
Yep. So Peter Purves might be right. He might be right. He might be onto it. He might be saying in a much more concise way what we've been thinking and trying to deny. It feels bleak sometimes, but what does cheer me up, Stefan, is the cliffhangers, is classic Who. And there's some amazing choices in this. So if everybody just sees here, Friday, 8 o'clock, Sunday, 8 o'clock, Tuesday, 8 o'clock, Wednesday, 8 o'clock, Friday, 8 o'clock. Philip Morris, Will Hadcroft, John, Paul and Sean. 20 cliffhangers there to be discussed. Yeah? That's 16 of their favourites and 4 duds. And there's some tasty stuff there. And so I thought that would be a nice gift to all you who have followed this channel for the last 2 years. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your support, for your emails and everything. I'm only going away for a week, but you'll not know I've gone. My mic will be better, because when it's a recording, it never breaks. It's amazing. So please tune into those. But Stefan, how's it been on your debut?
Yeah, I'm loving it. Not phased at all. Enjoying the chat that's going on in the actual fan chat. Keeping an eye on everything. It's quite good. And like I said, speaking to Chris and Jordan as well. On top of that, it's been really good. Like I said, my specialist topic is when it comes to Doctor Who, and I'm sure over the coming months you'll see me again.
We won't give the choice away, but Stefan and me are planning a special on the missing episodes, but focus on a particular story or two. That's after Italy in another week's time. Stefan, you will see him back, and we're talking about missing episodes, because I know it's your favourite subject.
It is.
Yeah. Chris, good to see you again. And of course, we've got plans as well, separate to that. And again, post-Italy, we'll be doing them.
Wonderful.
But thank you both. And obviously, thank you, Jordan, earlier for joining us. Sometimes I do these shows and I'm thinking, God, I feel much more depressed after that. but it is supposed to be therapy. If everybody's wondering where half my videos are tonight, the cheeky little ones to try and bring it, I'm amazed the system's working tonight, so I think we've made it. But I will finish with our Who Pets, with our cliffhanger, where somebody's going to die. Before that, good night, Stefan. Good night, Chris. Nice. And see you all again after Italy. Watch the cliffhangers.
Ta-da.
RTD, one sense-sphere shut down. Those Who Pets have had the last hand up them. Time to die. It's just giving me the creeps. This never happened on Finger Bombs. One by one, they're all mine. They don't like it up 'em. All this walking, I wish I had my Benidorm motor scooter. Cry havoc!